Hey, 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 it's your girl, your favorite paralegal, aka Cassandra Lynn, and welcome to Legal Doc Talk 24/7. Hey, y'all, so I've been putting this off, but I was like, let me go on ahead and do it. So, we are still in the whole Tony Buzbee Jay-Z saga when it comes to this back and forth, and it's much bigger than just the Jane Doe cases, or the Jane Doe and John Doe case. A lot of people don't realize that there are other things that are going on in that whole saga. And if you've been with me and you guys, I showed you guys the timeline, you'll know that everything kind of kicked off when Busby sent those demand letters to Jay-Z. So it's like the demand letters, Jay-Z ends up filing a lawsuit in California. Um, Then Busby ends up amending the complaint in the Diddy case to add Jay-Z. Then the lady in Miss what was her name? Claudia ended up filing a frivolous lawsuit in New York. And then Jay-Z had two former clients of Busby file a lawsuit against him in Louisiana. And then Busby had his former clients. Oh, and I don't want to say had his former clients. His former clients came and filed a lawsuit against Jay-Z, Quinn Emanuel, and Marcy Croft. And when he actually filed those lawsuits, they initially were filed in Harris County in a district court, and they were moved up to a federal court as requested by Marcy Croft, because Marcy Croft stated that Quinn Emanuel does business not only in Texas, but also California and New York. Same with her firm, MG Legal. And then she also made a. So, Jessica Santiago, and we all know who this individual is. This is an investigator who, with another investigator, went to go visit Busby's clients. And I have given you guys the transcripts, I have given you guys the declaration from other clients, as well as former employees, current employees, family members who stated that they have all been approached by these investigators. However, in the two Houston cases where the former clients sued Rock Nation and MG Legal and the investigator and Marcy Croft, they're claiming that the investigator, Jessica Santiago, isn't real. So we have the Jane Doe case where we've seen that the investigators have approached Jane Doe, and they're saying that they sent private investigators over there, but all the way in Texas and Houston, they're saying y'all making this up. We have to make sense of this because it's not making sense. Either y'all do. Now, I have also posted on my wall on YouTube two cases in which Quinn Emanuel has a habit of hiring investigators. So they are known for doing this. Do law firms hire investigators? They do. They do. And we do use them, but it's only for certain purposes. It's not a how can I say this? A consistent thing. It's not a daily thing. We will only hire a private investigator if it is really needed. Okay. In these two Texas cases, Buzbee is now trying to get it removed from federal court back down to the state court. So he actually submitted what's called a motion to remand. And in that motion to remand, he is requesting that this go before the judge, and they argue this. But there are some very interesting things that I want you guys to pay attention to as I read this motion, because it's the investigators for me. You have investigators that say they don't work for Jay-Z or they weren't hired by Jay-Z, but yet they're doing things just, just because, they're trying to help out. But now I think I'm making a connection, because as much as Rock Nation, Quinn Emanuel tried to distance themselves from MJ Legal and Marcy Croft. In those declarations that I read, they all stated that they were hired by Marcy Croft or MJ Legal, or if you sign up with this, then Marcy Croft is going to be your attorney. That's what they're saying. But what Marcy Croft is saying that there are no investigators. Y'all are making this up. Somebody went to these individuals' houses. They spoke with somebody. We had a phone call transcript. We had two of them. And we have sworn affidavits from people who were either called or approached by these investigators. But nobody knows where they're from, who hired them. Well, I have an inclination. It's Quinn Emanuel and it's MJ Legal. And as much as Quinn Emanuel is trying to say that they never had no other type of relationship with MJ Legal, I believe that that is a bold-faced lie. But let's hop right on into this plaintiff's motion to remand that was submitted uh, by Tony Buzbee on behalf of Jose Maldonado. I haven't checked Geraldo yet, Garcia, to see if there's also a motion to remand, but if so, it's going to pretty much say the same thing. And it reads, in removing this action from the 190th Judicial District Court of Harris County, Texas, defendants Marcy Brian Croft and MJ Legal, PA, baldly assert that plaintiff's allegations concerning two Texas based defendants should be entirely disregarded because those defendants are not real parties in interest in this action. Croft falsely claims that defendant Jessica Santiago is fictitious individual despite plaintiff's allegations and evidence that this fictitious repeatedly called the plaintiff, showed up in person to plaintiff's father's home, and admitted that she worked for the defendant Croft. Croft also falsely claims that law firm Quinn Emanuel is improperly joined as a defendant because it is not adequately alleged to have a role in the malfeasance alleged, even though Quinn Emanuel was the first defendant sued as the result of a larger conspiracy alleged in plaintiff's petition and in other related cases, and has admitted in participation in defendant's scheme. So once again, they are trying to disassociate themselves. MJ Croft or MJ Legal, Marcy Croft is trying to disassociate herself and her firm from Quinn Emanuel. Santiago and Quinn Emanuel are alleged to be Texas residents, which prevents removal of this action unless Croft can show by clear and convincing evidence that both have been improperly joined here. Croft has a high burden and cannot meet it. Defendant Santiago is unquestionably a real person, and any questions as to her full identity appear to be resolvable through knowledge Croft herself possesses. And plaintiff has a reasonable basis for recovery against defendant Quinn Emanuel, which from the beginning has been at the center of the legal battles arising out of the defendant's scheme alleged in this and other actions. Now, all through these Texas cases alone, Marcy Croft has stated, even in her declarations, that she does not know who Jessica Santiago is. She does not know who that private investigator is. She even had somebody search in the state of Texas to see if there is a PI by the name of Jessica Santiago, and she cannot find it. Now, these are the same individuals that were going after former clients, former employees, current clients, current employees, and family members in relation to Tony Buzbee, flashing fake badges, saying that they were with the state of Texas. Thus, the reason why there was that Buzbee filed on Geraldo Garcia and Jose Maldonado's behalf for barratry. That is illegal across the 50 states. Here are the relevant facts. This case arises out of a coordinated scheme by the defendants to identify former clients of the Buzbee law firm and illegally solicit them to file frivolous suits against said firm. The named defendants in the action are Marcy Croft, MJ Legal PA, Rock Nation, Jessica Santiago, and Quinn Emanuel. Plaintiffs allege that he was contacted multiple times by Santiago and another investigator over the phone who attempted to solicit plaintiff to file a lawsuit against Buzbee, at times impersonating federal or state officials and claiming that there was money in it for plaintiff. Santiago disclosed her name to plaintiff and stated that she worked for defendant Croft. Defendants Quinn Emanuel and Croft are alleged to be orchestrating a campaign of similar solicitations to other Buzbee clients. The scheme to commit barratry alleged in this action is itself part of a larger effort by defendants to intimidate and harass Buzbee and its clients in retaliation for litigation filed by Buzbee against Sean Carter, also known as the rapper Jay-Z, who is the founder of Defendant Rock Nation and client of both Quinn Emanuel and Croft. The instant action is one of three related cases filed against the same defendants for claims arising out of the same general course of conduct and nucleus of facts. The first lawsuit, the Buzbee Law Firm versus Quinn Emanuel, was filed on December 5th by Buzbee solely against defendant Quinn Emanuel, alleging that Quinn Emanuel hired a team of private investigators to intimidate, harass, malign, and threaten Buzbee and its employees and clients. Ooh, they have a judicial notice, a request for a judicial notice. Hold on, we're gonna get to that. The second lawsuit, which was Garcia, that's Geraldo Garcia versus Marcy Croft, Rock Nation, Legal, and Quinn Emanuel, alleging barratry and conspiracy against defendants, was filed as. I'm not going to read all that. That was filed on December 18th, following the discovery of additional participants in the scheme. And the instant case alleging facts that to the Garcia action was filed on January 3rd, 2025 in Harris County. Thereafter, the Buzbee law firm cause was amended to include newly identified defendants, including Croft, as to this case on January 28th. I'm sorry, January 27th. Croft filed a notice of removal as to this case on January 28th. Croft also filed notices of removal in Garcia action on January 28th and in the Buzbee law firm action on January 29th. The sole ground for removal Croft cites is diversity jurisdiction under Title 28 of the United States Code, Section 1332. If you're unaware of that, please definitely go back and watch my previous videos, and I pretty much explain what diversity jurisdiction is. Um, of the defendants, Jessica Santiago and Quinn Emanuel are alleged to be Texas residents. Now, I'm going to skip over the legal standard. Hold on, let me see. A defendant's ability to remove an action is limited in cases involving diversity citizenship. Oh, says right here. So, known as the forum defendant rule, a suit that is otherwise removable solely on the basis of diversity of citizenship may not be removed if any of the parties in interest properly joined and served as defendants in the state, a citizen of the state in which such action is brought. To disregard the existence of forum defendants, a removing party must prove improper joinder by clear and convincing evidence. Because the whole thing is, once again, that one, Jessica Santiago is not real. That's what she's fighting. Excuse me. That is what she's fighting. She is saying that Jessica Santiago is not a real person. But she's also saying that Quinn Emanuel is not a citizen, and yes, corporations, businesses can be considered a citizen in a particular state, but that goes under the diversity of citizenship. But they also have offices in, I believe, in New York, definitely in California. Um, yeah, so that's that. All right, so here's their argument. Croft has not met her heavy burden to establish the existence of diversity jurisdiction. The petition alleges that two defendants are Texas residents. Croft must affirmably establish that neither of them is a proper party here. She has not and cannot do so. Croft claims that Jessica Santiago is a fabrication, but plaintiff allegations establish that Santiago is very real and that she contacted him numerous times by telephone and approached his father at his house. Santiago also disclosed that she worked for the defendant Croft. If anything, Croft herself has the identifying information she claims plaintiffs lacks, and her argument that Santiago is a fabrication or is otherwise unidentifiable are disingenuous. As to Quinn Emanuel, Croft asserts that Quinn Emanuel is not alleged to have made any acts in furtherance of the conspiracy alleged by plaintiff. But plaintiff's allegations against Quinn Emanuel are sufficient to survive the equivalent of a Rule 12b6 challenge, and any deficiencies can easily be addressed through amendment. Since Croft cannot show both Jessica Santiago and Quinn Emanuel have been improperly joined, removal for improper and remand is necessary. Okay. Because, and I think I see what's going here. So when you have cases in federal courts that allow, but the reason why you have it in federal court is because a federal court has jurisdiction to hear cases over defendants or parties that are from different states. Okay. Now, Buzbee is saying that Jessica Santiago is a citizen of the state of Texas, as well as Quinn Emanuel. Okay. In order for Marcy Croft to keep this in federal court, she has to prove that Jessica Santiago is not in the state of Texas and that Quinn Emanuel is not a citizen or considered a citizen of the state of Texas. Otherwise, it would have to go back down to the lower court in which they have jurisdiction to hear cases of citizens in the state of Texas. Hope that makes sense. This motion is timely. Pursuant to Title 28 of the United States Code, Section 1447C, a motion to remand the case on the basis of any defect other than lack of subject matter jurisdiction must be made within 30 days after the filing of the notice of removal. Croft's notice of removal was filed on January 28, 2025. Because the motion was made within 30 days of January 28th, it is timely. All right, so going on to her assertion that Santiago is fictitious and not supported by clear and convincing evidence and cannot be the basis for removal. So Croft asserts that Texas-based defendant Jessica Santiago is a fabrication, that no such person exists, implying that plaintiff invented her to secure state court jurisdiction. Because mind you, if Jessica Santiago um what am I trying to say, a resident of the state of Texas, then it needs to go back. Excuse me, I'm sorry. It needs to go back down to the state court. But she's trying to say that Buzbee made her up in order to keep the case in the state court. This is crazy. As additional support for her claim that Santiago is a fabrication, Croft observes that plaintiff has not alleged and addressed or identifying information for Santiago and that no registered investigator by the name resides in Harris County. Croft also argues that Jessica Santiago is a fictitious name under Title 28 of the United States Code, Section 1441. The citizenship of defendants sued under fictitious names shall be disregarded. Noted, and they attached a notice of removal. To justify removal, it is Croft's burden to establish these assertions by clear and convincing evidence. Because you wanted it, well, yeah, she has not, and she cannot. She has not and she cannot. So Marcy Croft is trying to put it back on Buzbee, saying that Geraldo or Jose Maldonado didn't provide any identifying information to them. But yet there is a call. There is a call. There is a transcript where she clearly says, "My name is Jessica Santiago and I work for Marcy Croft or MJ Legal." And she said, "We're from the state." It's all in a transcribed, certified call done by US Legal that has been filed with the court. But yet they're saying that this is not a real person. First of all, Croft's assertion that the person referred to in the petition as Jessica Santiago is fabricated or non existent is directly contradicted by plaintiff's allegation in the petition, which must be credited here. Let me see. Plaintiff Maldonado alleges that a woman calling herself Jessica Santiago called him numerous times and approached his father in person at his house. Plaintiff further alleges that Santiago stated that she worked for Marcy Croft. Whether or not Jessica Santiago is that woman's real name, she is not fabricated or non existent. She is real. And the plaintiff has alleged that she lives in Harris County. Plaintiff's counsel own investigation has revealed dozens of women named Jessica Santiago in Harris County and elsewhere in Texas who could be the woman who spoke with plaintiff. Croft engages in sleight of hand by asserting that no Jessica Santiago in Harris County is a registered or licensed private investigator. But plaintiff has never pleaded that Ms. Santiago was registered or licensed, only that she claimed to be an investigator and that she worked for Marcy Croft. As it is the direct link between Santiago and Marcy Croft that renders Croft's arguments here are disingenuous. First of all, it has to be that the case that Jessica Santiago does indeed work for Croft in some capacity. There is simply no way that a woman claiming to be an investigator contacts Jose Maldonado in Houston, Texas, and states that she works for an attorney in Mississippi named Marcy Croft unless she actually works for Marcy Croft. And that implies that Croft knows, or in any case can identify, the woman who held herself out to plaintiff as Jessica Santiago. Presumably, Croft does not want to acknowledge this because to do so would be to flatly admit her own participation in the Berry conspiracy alleged by plaintiff. But for Croft to claim that Jessica Santiago is non existent is outrageous. In the same way, plaintiff has not alleged Miss Santiago as a doe. Miss Santiago is not a theoretical person whom plaintiff merely hypothesizes had something to do with the conduct alleged here. Plaintiff has named Miss Santiago as a defendant under the name that was given by her. Again, to the extent Jessica Santiago is a fake name, the person best suited to provide her actual identity appears to be Croft. In any event, because Croft identifies only Santiago's fictitious nature or name as a basis for disregarding her for diversity purposes, it is Croft's burden to prove that defendant Santiago is in fact fictitious or fictitiously named as a doe equivalent and therefore improperly joined as a defendant. She has not done so. The woman plaintiff spoke with clearly exists and has been sued in the only name given to plaintiff. Santiago clearly participated in the conduct alleged at the direction of Croft. To the extent that remand or removal turns on Miss Santiago's full identity and residence, plaintiff is entitled to discovery on jurisdictional matters and suggests that discovery from Croft as to Jessica Santiago's existence and identity is here required. I hope and pray they move to discovery because it's about to open up a whole can of worms. Plaintiff has alleged sufficient facts to support a cause of action against defendant Quinn Emanuel. Croft contends that Quinn Emanuel is improperly joined and therefore cannot be considered for purposes of diversity jurisdiction. There are two ways a removing party can establish improper joinder. In it can show joinder. I said joinder. Joinder. It can show one actual fraud in the plaintiff's pleading of jurisdictional facts, or two, inability of the plaintiff to establish a cause of action against the non-diverse defendants in state court. Croft does not claim actual fraud, so only the second prong of this test is relevant. The question posed by the second prong is whether the removing defendant has demonstrated that there is no possibility of recovery by the plaintiff against an in state defendant. Croft asserts that the plaintiff simply has not pleaded sufficient facts to establish that Quinn Emanuel has participated in the conduct or conspiracy alleged in this case. But Quinn Emanuel has not been added to this case as an afterthought or as a dummy defendant in an attempt to retain Texas jurisdiction. At the outset of defendants' conspiracy to harass and interfere with Buzbee and its clients, and before the identity of Croft or other defendants was known, Buzbee named Quinn Emanuel as the sole defendant in the first lawsuit arising out of the conspiracy. So on December 5th, before Buzbee even filed a lawsuit or amended the lawsuit to add Jay Z to it, which was done on December 8th, on December 5th, Buzbee sued Quinn Emanuel solely. There was no MJ Legal, there was no Marcy Croft, there was um no Jessica Santiago, no Rock Nation. It was solely Quinn Emanuel. As time progressed and people started coming forward saying that they have been approached and received calls from these people, that is when Busby began digging and ended up finding out more information. He got declarations. He had sworn declarations from individuals who have been approached or contacted by these people. He has sworn declarations from people saying that, hey, we received $10,000 or $1,000 so that we could, be involved in a class action lawsuit against you. They have transcribed, certified phone transcripts by U.S. Legal. Shout out to U.S. Legal because I got to call them in a minute for Depot. But shout out to them. So Buzbee did his due diligence, but he didn't have to work too hard because there were people coming forth letting them know what was going on behind scenes. Quinn Emanuel, therefore, has at all relevant times been alleged to be a driving force and orchestrator of defendants' actions. Croft disingenuously refers to Quinn Emanuel's early denial of involvement in Barratry scheme as being cited by plaintiff to establish Quinn Emanuel's participation. But plaintiff's point is quite the opposite. As plaintiff goes on to state, which Croft does not cite, Quinn Emanuel's denial of its involvement in open court through its counsel was a bald-faced lie. Mere days after the firm denied its involvement in the investigation activities, guess what happened? Quinn Emanuel partner Alex Spiro openly admitted Quinn Emanuel's involvement in direct contradiction of the prior representation to the Harris County Court. In a brief filed with the New York court, Spiro stated, plaintiff's counsel Buzbee tried to prevent Quinn Emanuel from investigating Mr. Carter's claim for extortion by trying to enjoin the firm from contacting anyone related to the Buzbee law firm. In short, Quinn Emanuel admitted that they were involved in investigatory actions that ultimately led to this and other lawsuits. You see how Spiral was caught in a lie just now? In light of that admission, it is unclear what additional evidence needs to be submitted to establish at least a responsible possibility that Quinn Emanuel is and has always been part of the conspiracy alleged by plaintiff. And if Quinn Emanuel is part of that conspiracy, part of which is to commit bigotry by soliciting false claims against Buzbee, it does not matter that Quinn Emanuel itself solicited employment from Buzbee clients or otherwise satisfied each element of a claim for bigotry. It is enough that Quinn Emanuel assisted, financed, or otherwise enabled other participants in the conspiracy to do so. And Quinn Emanuel is alleged to have taken actions in furtherance of the conspiracy in any event. For instance, by instructing Croft and MJ Legal to send agents, private investigators to Texas to the homes of the firm's ex clients who were also in Texas. Think about the Jane Doe case. Charlotte Henderson said that she was not hired by Jay Z or any of the attorneys for Jay Z. There could be a possibility that they were hired by Marcy Croft and MJ Legal. MJ Legal has an office in Mississippi and Texas. Miss Charlotte Henderson, the PI, she is in Alabama, but she also does work in Mississippi. Then you have Ian Billinger, who is also, he has, for Guide, I forgot what his company is called. He does investigations. It could be very well that MJ Legal and Marcy Croft hires these private investigators, but Quinn Emanuel, just like what this says, they instruct them to do so. This is not the first case. If we take Buzbee out, if we take Jane Doe out, if we take all of these cases out and go back, go on my community wall, I posted 2 cases in which they used investigators. One was I think a cologne company sued Jay-Z, and then there was another a case where an ex-model sued a man by the name of Leon Black, and Quinn Emanuel was representing Leon Black. But she says investigators popped up at her apartment trying to, like, harassing her, trying her to get to say this, and this. Yes. So Quinn Emanuel has a long history of these weird behind investigators stalking people, harassing people. So move the Buzbee part. Let's just focus on what Quinn Emanuel does and what they have a history of doing. You can't say that in one case we use investigators to try to make your case look better, but then in this case you're saying no, we don't hire investigators. But you just got caught up in a lie. Quinn Emanuel first said that they don't use investigators. Then you came out in a brief saying yes. And Busby tried to get in the way of our investigators doing their job. So which one is it? Do you not have investigators or do you have investigators? Fairly read, the petition alleges that Quinn Emanuel is an orchestrator of a conspiracy to commit bigotry and that Quinn Emanuel has instructed other members of the conspiracy regarding actions to be taken. Moreover, Quinn Emanuel has admitted its participation in the investigatory scheme, which alone is sufficient to demonstrate its potential liability. But to the extent that the allegations are found to be insufficient under a Rule 12b6 standard, plaintiffs should be given leave to amend. Let's see, in order to plead more specific facts as to each defendant. Mm, 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 mm. So I think he got more. In conclusion, Croft has not satisfied her heavy burden to prove that defendant Santiago is fictitious or that the plaintiff has no possibility of recovering on its claims against Quinn Emanuel. Accordingly, those defendants cannot be disregarded for purposes of diversity jurisdiction. For all the above reasons, plaintiff respectfully requests that the court find defendant Croft's removal improper and remand this action back to state court. So all in all, let me see. I don't think I attached the exhibits. I need to grab those, but my system is down. So all in all, Marcy Croft decided that she wanted this to go to federal court, but she's looking to get this case pretty much thrown out because one, Jessica Santiago is not real. Now, the, the whole purpose of this was to show you guys how Spiral One lied, how MJ Legal is working with Quinn Emanuel, how Quinn Emanuel orchestrates these investigations, not just in this Jay-Z Tony Buzbee saga, but outside of this in other cases that I've cited. Go on my community wall. But how in New York are you saying that, okay, we have an investigator, she went to Jane Doe, they submitted a declaration to say Jane Doe didn't, you know, she lied about everything. I read the declarations to you guys last night. And in those declarations, we found that Charlotte Henderson's and James Butler pretty much were verbatim. Same thing. They approached Jane Doe on the 21st. On the 25th was a hearing on Buzbee's motion to strike. Vasquez, who is Buzbee's attorney, stated and submitted um, Jane Doe's declaration that was actually signed on the 27th but submitted on the 3rd. But 25th, they had a hearing, and I read the transcript, the court transcript of what was going on between Jay-Z's lawyer and the court. And the judge was saying, why can't you give me a name as to right now? Why can't you call your investigator and ask your investigator of the name of the individual who has firsthand knowledge of what was said? And he couldn't do that. Why is that? Then why submit a declaration? And I'm referring to Charlotte. Why submit a declaration and you say I wasn't hired by Jay-Z or his attorneys? In my life, like, so who are you? Who were you hired by? Because last time I checked, we don't hire private investigators. Well, we don't. I'm not. Let me take that back. We do hire private investigators, but no private investigator can come to me and say, "Hey, I have a declaration. File this in support of your case." No one ever, 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 as long as I've been a paralegal working with a law firm, we have never had an individual on the outside just come to us and say, "Hey, I actually spoke to this person and this is what they said. Hey, file this with your case." I'm not doing that. I am not going to do that because the proper thing is you have a call because there's some things that you have to verify. And it's weird. So you have a declaration by a private investigator, but you don't have a declaration by Jane Doe herself because that's the purpose of them going there. See, on the 25th of February, when they were in court, that is what that attorney was banking on. So that's why that judge said, well, hey, let's take 10 minutes and you could call your investigator. But he already knew what the plan was. They were trying to get Jane Doe to sign that affidavit. I want everybody to really listen to me when I say this. If Jane Doe stated that Buzbee put this in her head, made her include Jay-Z in a lawsuit, if Jane Doe stated that he did not do anything to me, hit him nor did he, she would have signed that declaration. Y'all have to understand, you have a declaration from a private investigator who spoke to somebody else. That is what the judge was saying in the court hearing. That's exactly what he's saying. So, what is going to be admissible and what's going to be inadmissible? It's going to be considered hearsay. They were banking on those investigators having Jane Doe sign a sworn declaration and submit it to support Jay-Z. If she was lying, she would have signed it right then and there. Oh yeah, y'all come. Okay, really? All right, yeah. You know what? I am, because this is wrong. He shouldn't have done this. He shouldn't have made me include him in this lawsuit. You know what? I am going to sign it. Here you go. But that did not happen. The only thing that they had was the private investigators, whatchamacallit. Now, here is another thing with that being said. So there was a whole dialogue, and obviously it was recorded because yeah, people have sent it to me. The little clip of Jane Doe saying what she said. Word of advice. That is going to have to go get transcribed and certified. So they better get US Legal on the phone so they can do that, because that's the only way it's going to come and be filed on the through the courts. It has to be certified. It has to be transcribed and certified, just like Buzbee did in the Texas cases, and we figured out about Jessica Santiago that we know is a real person. The same thing that is going to have to happen in this California case. So you have Charlotte and you have James, both private investigators who submitted their declaration based off of a conversation that they had with Jane Doe, in which Jane Doe was talking about Tony Buzbee. At this point, it's hearsay. We heard an audio, but that audio could be altered. I'm just putting that out there. That's why it has to go through the proper channels in order to be filed with the court. Now I see what Spiral was trying to do here. He was like, okay, she gonna do an interview. Let me go ahead and put this out. He's trying to tarnish her name, even though we don't know her name. He's trying to tarnish it even more. The declarations submitted by private investigators are not going to work. The only way it's going to work is if either Jane Doe submits her own declaration to support Jay-Z, saying that she did not do it, or the private investigators hit up US Legal or Jay-Z's attorney, whoever, a mutual party, hit up US Legal and say, hey, here's the whole conversation. I need you to transcribe this and file your certification with the court. That's the only way. Otherwise, it's hearsay. Otherwise, it is hearsay. You can submit a declaration saying that you did a background check and she had 5,100 criminal activities on there. But that's not the matter. The matter is you're trying to say that you were defamed, you were extorted. You have no evidence of extortion because the judge already told you if you're banking on the demand letters, I'm going to tell you right now, that ain't it. So that's already out the window. You're focusing now on defamation. You're saying Jane Doe said, so listen to the words. He's saying that Jane Doe said that it didn't happen. Yet you don't have a declaration from Jane Doe herself saying it didn't happen. You don't have a declaration from John Doe saying that it didn't happen. All you have is declarations from investigators who tracked down these individuals and recorded information that could clearly be altered. Think about the Diddy case with the videos, right? They were saying that the video was altered and all this other stuff. You won't know until you get your hands on a copy of the video and you play it yourself and you have a forensic person who come and see if there was any anything that was, altered on that video. That applies here as well. We can't say that that is Jane Doe. I mean, it could be her voice. We do know that she was approached by them and the conversation was obviously recorded, but how we know that it wasn't altered? An expert forensic person would need to take that audio and they need to see if it was altered in any way. That's the first thing, to be honest. Scratch US legal doing what they do. They need to see first if it was altered in any way. If not, then US legal can go ahead and transcribe it and do their certification and submit that to the court. That is the process. So believe what you want, but I'm telling you, as far as procedures go, you cannot sit here and bank on a audio that could have been tampered with. Just the same energy people have with the Cassie video, right? People saying it's altered and all this other stuff. Have the same energy with the Jane Doe audio. Until a forensic person reviews it, we have to take that with a grain of salt as of right now. The only thing in this case that can be admissible, that can be 100% accurate, is Jane Doe herself filing a declaration on behalf of Jay-Z, or them having a forensic person ensure that it wasn't tampered with, the audio wasn't tampered with in any way, it wasn't misconstrued, that is the true and correct version of it. Have US legal transcribe it and submit a certification. Those are the only two ways that we are going to determine whether or not Jane Doe is telling the truth. Because as of right now, Jane Doe declaration stands. You want to know why? Because she submitted it and it has been submitted to support Buzbee's motion to strike Jay-Z's amended complaint. That's how the process works. This is no longer, I like Jay-Z, I like Buzbee, I don't believe Jane Doe, blase, blase, blase. It is about procedure. If he cannot come with actual evidence stating that Jane Doe made up everything, all those things that she said about him was defamatory, was a lie, he has no evidence, he could kiss that case goodbye. The judge already states what he wants. Now, I know what they was going to do. They were somehow, I was just thinking in the back of my head, they're going to come out with some audio. Because I don't know a private investigator that don't submit, pictures. Like all my private investigators do that. Pictures, audios, whatever. Y'all let me know what y'all think about this in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I will be back with another one. Until then, you all be blessed and I'm out. Bye.